All right, here we are for episode 5 of Grey's Anatomy. We're still on season 1. Here it gets a little exciting. So for this whole episode, there is this big party that's going to happen. Izzy is planning for it. She has multiple people helping her plan the party throughout the episode. They're all trying to get off on time so that they can go to the party, right? The party is for Izzy's boyfriend from back home, who's a hockey player and who's coming to visit her, but she wants him to meet some of her friends at the hospital. She clears with Meredith a small get-together to meet the boyfriend. This party turns into not a small get-together, it turns into this massive freaking party, like Project X type deal, almost, but like a doctor version, I guess. I don't know. So they're all planning throughout the whole episode. The boyfriend shows up to the house. Meredith is already there. She's like super upset because Izzy did not clear this many people and Izzy is not even at the freaking party. So boyfriend meets Meredith, Christina, George, and so they're already drunk and they're like, okay, well, she's probably back at the hospital because she's not here, right? So he goes to the hospital, meets her as she's leaving out to go to the party. And they started talking and he's kind of like not into it anymore. She's like, well, you never had an issue meeting my friends when they were models. Why is it different now? He's basically like just a fucking jerk, right? Like very superficial. Of course he liked meeting your friends when they were models because they were hot models, you know what I mean? And so she's like, well, this is my life now, like I don't know what to tell you, and so he's like, well, it'd be long distance anyway and I can't really deal with that, so maybe it's best if we part ways. So he leaves, he breaks up with her. So anyway, let's see. So big thing with Meredith this episode is she is on Burke's service for this heart surgery. Meredith's hand slips during heart surgery. She's supposed to be holding on to the heart during surgery. She punctures a hole in her glove. So she is scared because she was so sleepy is why her hand slipped, right? She was falling asleep. So she is so scared that she did something to this patient's heart. She tells George on the elevator and they're kind of like, okay, let's just not fucking say shit. But later on when the patient has complications, her husband is right there with her, and so she starts having these complications, and Burke and Meredith are there and they're trying to like see what's wrong or whatever, and he's like, I gotta take her up to surgery. And before they even leave out, right in front of the husband, Meredith freaking confesses to having punctured a hole in her glove and maybe she nicked her heart. Why she did this in front of the freaking patient's husband, we will never know. She got in a major trouble for this. They actually, her and Burke have a meeting in the chief's office with the chief and like one of the lawyers from the hospital. And so they're basically wanting to fire Meredith because they're like, well, why would you say that in front of a patient's loved one? Like, it was very inappropriate. And when you did puncture the hole, you did not report it. And so Burke is standing up for her, defending her, like, yeah, she reported it to me, whatever. And it was dealt with. And so anyways, Meredith ends up getting 1 month probation. And then also what's going on with her is that she keeps getting calls from the nursing home asking her to come in. She never has any freaking time because of how hectic her schedule is as an intern. This particular morning, they say, hey, your mom's lucid. We need you here because we need to sign over to you her like estate, her finances. We need to get her affairs in order, and you need to be here to sign this paperwork because, once she starts not being lucid anymore, then, we're not going to be able to take care of that stuff. And so she finally finds time to go up there, but she's not lucid anymore. So she doesn't know what's going on. She cannot sign the paperwork like that. She has to be fully aware of what's going on, or they can't sign the paperwork because it would be illegal. Meredith gets so frustrated because of all this that she goes off on the staff, and she calls them irresponsible, and why would you wait this long and all this, and she's like, I have a life too, and I am busy like being a freaking doctor, trying to be a doctor, and I can't always do this. Anyway, so she goes off, but anyways, it ends up working out because at the end of the episode, she becomes lucid again. She goes and signs the paperwork. Everything gets taken care of, right? And then, let's see. I think there was something else on here. Oh, yeah. So George and Bailey, they end up having a patient this episode who had a surgery 5 years ago. Same hospital, right? Apparently, on that surgery, they left a towel inside of her. Yeah, a fucking towel. And it becomes really sad because it's like this nice old lady, and she just can't believe it. And she's like, who would do that? Like, and she goes, I was walking around with a towel inside of me for 5 years. And George just kind of looks at her, and it's just sad because she starts crying, and she and it is, and they're just trying to find out whose fault it is, but also trying to keep it like under wraps in case it's somebody important, which turns out it's Burke. Yeah, he left the towel inside the woman. And so anyways, they try to cover it up. They're just like, don't freaking tell anybody. Then they get her fixed up. She's ready to go. She's fine. Burke and Christina flirt a lot. Mainly Burke. He's trying to flirt with her. He kind of sucks at flirting, I'm not going to lie, because he's just so serious all the time, like he's not really, doesn't strike me as a fun guy. Okay. And so Christina is also kind of very serious, but they share their first kiss, and they actually end up having sex. And so they get started in this on-call room. They actually meet there a lot throughout their little situationship there. And then with Alex, this episode, he has a patient who's a drug addict, who he very reluctantly has to give medication to, even though that's what they're there for. And so he ends up confessing about his troubled past and how his dad was a drug addict, alcohol also was involved. And it just kind of like reminded him of all the trauma that he had faced with that particular situation. And Izzy overhears this, and so she becomes a little interested in him after that. She says probably to herself, there's more to him than what meets the eye. And I think that's also where we all started. Okay, so he has some layers. He has some layers. And maybe that's why he's acting like such an a-hole. Okay? So we got to peel back those layers to get to know the real Alex, to get to know him. And and Izzy is that type of person. Actually, you know what? I'm also that type of person that we want to get to know these people, that we want to peel back those layers. We want people to trust us, to feel safe with us, because we're empathetic and we're loving and kind and compassionate, and we want to be there. Okay? Even if it is just to listen, you know. Anyways, you can clearly see she becomes, you know, interested in him. And anyways, well, and so that should work out because she got broken up with. But this was right before she got broken up with. She didn't know yet. Anyways, last thing here I have in my notes for this episode, which is a big one. So we are ending the episode. Derek shows up to the party, and Meredith is outside, just a dancing to nothing, drunk. Okay. And so they end up having sex in, I don't know if it's her car or his car, but they end up having sex in a car in her driveway. Bailey had asked to be invited to the party in order for a favor earlier in the show. They didn't think Bailey was going to show up to the party. She shows up. And before she leaves the party, she catches Derek and Meredith in the car. Which I feel like they could have snuck up to the room because there were so many people, but maybe not. I don't fucking know. So anyways, they're doing it in the car, and she catches them, and she's kind of just like, can you move your car? You're in the way. Doesn't say anything about it. And so they're like, crap, you know, totally wrong person to catch us doing this mess. Okay. So that's it for episode 5. I'll be right back. One more video for tonight, episode 6 of Grey's Anatomy. And that was episode 5. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. As always, see you later.